What is up, everybody? I think we're live right now. Hope everybody's having the best weekend, the best holidays. Let's go ahead and get into the chats and see what we have going on here. It looks like we got Addie and Six in the house. How are you guys doing today? I hope you're having a good day. I think most people are on holiday right now, so I wouldn't expect, that we have a lot of folks show up. But if you do have any friends, hit them up, send them our way. And the point of this stream is going to be that we're going to go ahead and talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and any altcoins that you guys might want to talk about. The price action is quite a bit choppy though, so if we get into some hard spots, we are going to zoom out to a larger time frame just to bring more clarity to the charts that we're looking at. All right, let's get this thing going. All right, so I thought that Bitcoin dominance could be something fun to look at with the weekend coming, or not the weekend coming up, but the holidays, right? So depending on what you see with your dominance will greatly reflect what you'll see with your altcoins, right? So if your Bitcoin price is heading to the downside while your dominance is increasing, so if this dominance increases while Bitcoin's price decreases, your altcoins will bleed very sharply, okay? So that's one scenario to be aware of when you're looking at Bitcoin dominance. I don't think that you really need to admire Bitcoin dominance on the 4-hour time frame and be that anal retentive about it. I think that we're just here for the macro of this. And a lot of me feels like the biggest part of this has more to do with the basic fibs than any sort of Elliott Wave structure. So I kind of put those to the side when I look at Bitcoin dominance, and I just look at it from a fib retracement perspective only. And when we see that, we notice that we came up to the 786 for a typical rejection, right? The other thing that I like about that rejection is there's not a lot of price action checking in it, right? It just continued to fall down, and then it got a really good push up to back check price action. And I'm very curious, will this initial leg get a partner leg to the downside at a certain point, right? If you could get Bitcoin dominance to give you a leg to the downside while Bitcoin's price itself went to the upside, right? So if you can get this move down while Bitcoin's price is going up, this is when your altcoins get mega pumps, right? And we'll get into this more as we go through the stream, right? So the first part of this stream, as always, will be just us reviewing Bitcoin and Ethereum price action. Sorry, I needed a sip of my drink. We will review Bitcoin and Ethereum price action, and then we'll move into your chart requests. Yes, as always, if you're going to put chart requests in the chat, if possible, guys, could you put as much detail as possible for me, right? Is this an asset that you're already involved in? Are you looking to get involved in it? Would that be in spot? Would that be in leverage, So if you want me to work through some chart requests with you guys, just let me know the exacts. This way we can work through it together with as much detail as possible. All right, so we've covered Bitcoin dominance. I do think it's something to keep your eye on. You need to be watching it here on the weekly to see how it reacts at the RSI level of 50 and your 50 EMA, right? So if we delete everything and we just worry about the basics here, this is your weekly bull control zone for your RSI. This is your weekly bull control zone for the action of these candles, yes? You are rejecting currently off of the 50 EMA on the weekly, and so far you've remained as resistance here around the 48.69 level on the RSI. If this continues to happen, I do think then, yes, we would get that partner leg to the downside, right? We can only estimate to where that would go, and we could do that with a retracement from a low to a high, and the corrective extensions to kind of give us a somewhat a picture of where we think it could go, right? So if that was a leg down and a connector up that may still be forming, we don't know. On average, we're going to look for around 54%, right? That's our 382 retracement and our 1 through 1.382 extensions, okay? So do bear that in mind, right? So everything that we're going to be looking at for altcoins throughout this stream depends on Bitcoin's price and Bitcoin dominance. That equation will give us what our altcoins need. So if anybody has questions over that, please do ask and we'll cover it then, okay? All right, let's see if we have anything new in the chat before we roll into Bitcoin. What is up, Stank? How are you? Thank you all for coming today, man. I'm really excited for this stream. I think we're going to have a good time. And we have a lot of altcoins that we've been noting in the Discord, and I'm going to cover those in this stream. If none of you ask them, just so that we have a little more alpha in the stream, a little more juice to get this thing going, yeah? All right, so Stank, it looks like you want to cover JASMY and Miner. Thank you for letting me know that you're in spot also. That's super helpful, my dude. Is Miner the same one we covered for each other last time, my dude? If so, I'm really excited to kind of see how it worked out if we've been looking at it recently. All right, Jamie, what is up? It's good to see you. You asked for Solana on leverage. All right, so we're looking for Sol on lever. And either short or long, hopefully you're not biased. Yeah, you're not in a position, so you're ready to run either way. Okay, got it down. And then these two are for Stank. Got it down. If anybody else has any other altcoins, please do get them in the chat, guys. This is always fun to get to see. And if you like anything during the chat, you have this little silly button over here full of emojis. Smash them up and let everybody know we're in the house, right? Do share the stream as always. Thumbs up it. It gets it out there, gets it seen to others. That's if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, get the fuck out. All right, Doctor, what's up? Ho, ho, ho. I really do hope we get the Santa Claus rally, you know. In the last 50 years, the SPX on average in the last 2 weeks of December typically gives a return of 1.4%. For me, with the SPX sitting right up here at all-time highs, why not go smash that out, right? Why don't we get this done during our Santa Claus rally and just be done with this bullshit, right? Like, let's quit the games. Let's do the average 1.4% that we normally do. And it's kind of funny because from where we're at right now, all-time high and that typical 1.4% is way less of a move than what we typically go for, right? In the second half of December. So I think that if you're watching the SPX, which generally dictates what the whole market's going to do, you're going to want to see this RSI resistance on a daily break. Once that can break, we can talk about more, right? But this general RSI resistance, we need to get above. It is nice to see that the SPX is above the bullish control zone here on the daily and above the MA of the RSI and the daily 50 EMA. As long as we can continue to do that, we're in an uptrend, right? Look at this. The 50 EMA is the big dog. You can see it very easily here on the daily, right? So let's not get fearful and overly bearish for these markets until we see us lose that 50. Then we can start to worry about shit. Right now, they're injecting money into the markets like you wouldn't believe. Trump likes flair. He likes the show. He wants this to go well, okay? So for me, I'm going to stay bullish moving in here into the end of this month. And if we're proven wrong, we'll deal with it when we get there. All right, so the next thing up on today's agenda will be Bitcoin's price action. As always, we're going to delete everything, and then we'll start to talk from there. There's a lot of stuff on the screen, and I do apologize for that. Sorry for the alerts. I have a lot of things going on recently in the trading of all of this range. Let's turn off some of this stuff. As always, let's talk about our macro scenarios first here on the daily. I am still team all-time high is likely in. For now, I'm going to stick with that. We'll talk about this 3, 4, and 5 here shortly. And do remember, if the primary count is still stacking to the downside in a 1, 2, 1, 2, we may only be getting like a temporary bullish relief here, right? That would be my biggest fear, right? So everybody's Santa Claus rally, everybody's team bull, right? Everybody's saying we're going to 1 million because of this. You know, it's like it's a catchphrase that everybody uses at this time of year. Don't let it catch you off guard and make you feel like you have to be bullish though, right? I do think that this 75K would be a minimum target at that point in time. Because it's the 618 extension when we use the targets up from 0 to 3 to 4 with the trend-based fib extension. It gives us a 75K target. I do think that's just a minimum. And the reason that concerns me is because when we zoom into price action here again, you'll notice that we start to talk about a possible leading diagonal to the downside, right? And if that's true, then we'll be able to get some corresponding math here once we get into kind of that hourly time frame to show you why I think this minimum target to the downside would get likely smashed out, and it might travel down a little bit deeper, right, and then bounce. But we'll cover that as we go. I just want you to understand that for now, this is the primary kind of the bearish count to the downside. Now, if we add in here so that we can see kind of what we think on the micro, you could have had a WXY and a 4. You do not pass the relative time of wave 2 to 4 being passed 3 times in length, right? So you get in here around the 2 and some change. So not bad. And if this continues, this has to be the primary for now. Now, this has very easy invalidation for the bears. And that's what I think is important is constantly noting validation and invalidation points as we go down this road. So if this is invalidation, we'll just move it off to the side so that we don't clutter our numbers here. We have something to kind of work for the bears. Now, another scenario that we kept looking at was something that was like in Forex, where you have a leg and a connector and a partner leg. Yes? I'm going to leave the WXY for now. Get rid of this. Because we have such good 5-wave motions, right? This is a great 5-wave motion, and then 3. And to the blind eye, that looks like 3. To the blind eye, that looks like 3. And then you end in such a good 5-wave motion. In here, you even have 1, 2 stacking, I believe, within that wave C that it creates this great displacement, and then all the chopping coming down here into the end, yes? So what, sorry, I had to take another drink here. So if we're wanting to kind of be bullishly biased moving into the end of the year, how could we do it? Well, if this isn't a WXY, you can have a WXY within a wave A. Likely this wave B would not be done yet. Maybe it is. I can't say, you know, right or wrong right now that the low time frame counts are a shit show. So, and we'll see that when we get there. Now, whether that B's in or not, we don't know. We'll look at time here in a moment. But that's how you could get a strong C wave to the upside. Now, I think what matters most in this game is liquidity. And when we look at that liquidity, we can see that we have an internal fair value gap there and not a lot else to look for, right? We have another one here that we never touched, right? We never touched any of the external liquidity and got into the internals. Right? We never touched any of the external and got into the internal left behind. Right? So we have these areas of interest. And with this being on a daily, these are high money areas. Right? So we want to be aware of every single one of these displacing candles down, what it might have left behind in that market. Yes? So we're going to use these as our areas of interest for the recovery. And we're going to put a retracement fib from the high to the low in this scenario. Now, a B wave, if this is 3 up in an A and you get 3 down in a B, in some sort of flat scenario, you're looking for 90% retracement of this prior leg up, right? So I would like to bet, you know, let me get rid of this silly fib on here. I would like to bet that you're going to come down and take 50% of this wick left behind in that scenario, right? So I think that's how they could chop this sideways for the holidays before moving into a strong motion upward. And the glory of that strong motion upward is that a C wave is made like what? A 5-wave motion that gets everybody super bullish, right? They're like, oh my God, this is it. That was a wave 2. This was a wave 1. And this is pump New York City, wave 3. We're going to take a pullback and then new all-time highs. But what happens is, no, it was a 3-wave corrective motion. It likely will end on high volume. It will eat up all the liquidity left behind, and then will give a very good displacing 5-wave motion to the downside. Yes? Now, that would mean massive opportunity here, right? So yes, these things are scary, but on the macro, that fear, that scare should be our opportunity. We shouldn't be so fearful. Does that make sense? All right, so that's Bitcoin on a daily. Let's delete everything and look at this from a 4-hour perspective. This is where I think things start to get cloudy in my opinion. Okay, so we're just going to draw kind of broad strokes as though you were a skier or a snowboarder going down a mountain, right? You're not looking at every little individual bump ahead of us as we proceed down this mountain. We're looking at it in broad strokes, right? You're admiring the terrain. Wow, that's a big bank. Wow, I'm back down in the valley. Okay, I'm going to pump this next hill, right? So when we count Elliott Wave, if we look at things in 5s and 3s and 5s and 3s and 5s and 3s, man, this is a really hard sell as a 5-wave motion, right? This is a really hard general sell as a 5-wave motion. Now, when we were looking at this on the lower time frames, we'll get to it, but we see this as a potential 5-wave motion here in a diagonal, right? We're going to make this a different color. And if we continue to look around, we'll note again, right, a 3-wave motion here, right? A 3-wave motion here. This is as chop city as it can get, right? Nothing here is trying to give us clarity for a reason. I think it is to make this as hard as possible before any sort of move could happen. Yes? And if you haven't noticed, if you've been watching the lower time frames, we're making swings that are far past the normal trend-based fib extensions for a correction. Right? So if we put this on, it's kind of hilarious because mathematically this would throw the majority of people off, right? You're well past the 1.382. You're pumping to the downside. You're like, dude, that is an impulse. Oh no, right? So then you're like, shit, if that's an impulse, I'm looking for a short. But instead, in the same area in which the displacement occurred, I really want you to admire it. You came right back to this area of displacement and just shattered it, right? And then you turned it into support and then pumped to a new high, right? It's this shit they're doing is to take all of your money while we're in this range, get us through the holidays, get us through the tax sell-offs, get us through all the sacrifices all the big investors took when they took their profits, and move us into a new year with a new trend where the president can say, wow, look at us. Look what we did, right? So if this is true and we start to admire this same exact range here from an Elliott Wave perspective, let's make sure everything's turned off. I have a couple different ways to look at it. One would be our original WXY that we had. 3 up. 3 down in an extreme motion, and this choppy son of a bitch is 3 up again. Now, I think that as shitty as it looks, you have to say this is 5 waves, as much as I don't want it to be, and 3-wave correction that ends way over here, and 5 waves again in Y, making it a 3-wave motion in total. Now that would throw the majority of people off, I think, and this is how we get into that bearish scenario we talked on the macro, but now we're looking at it on a lower time frame. Here's invalidation. I'm going to give us a bearish probability shift point for the roadmap looking forward, right? I'm going to be on holiday. We're going to be moving into the new year. I might not be around to chat about this. Now, you'll see here in a second why I attached my fibs that way. I'm seeing this as a potential diagonal to the downside. It would be a leading, contracting diagonal. Diagonals are rare. We shouldn't always hope for them, right? But it's a maybe. So after that, we started to assess this in corrective time for what is going on. When we go from 0 to 5, we noted 2 things, right? This is why we kind of got bullishly biased in the Discord. This high happens before a 382 in time of this leg down. Yes? Meaning that this 3-wave motion was likely not the high. If that's true, that means that you could be looking at some sort of chopping, wandering correction to the upside, and eventually facing rejection. Now, again, I want us to admire the area of liquidity. Liquidity. That's a hard word. That they are leaving behind here so far. Also, I want you to see that it is in line with your golden pocket retracement. Does it mean we have to go there? No. Could we have made some sort of fucked up WXY to the upside? Maybe, right? This looks like a 3-wave motion. This looks like a 3-wave motion. 3-wave motion. 3-wave motion. It doesn't look that hot, right? So if it is, it would really suck if it trapped everybody for a really good short here, and we just didn't get that typical retracement after a diagonal. Now, we'll look at this according to time also, but this is how you would build your bearish roadmap to the downside for the holidays, right? So Santa Claus rally gets punched in the throat. Santa's fucking dying on the ice. Now what are we doing? Great. This is the bearish retracement to the downside. So at that point, you would be looking for a 0 to wave 1. We'll make this a bigger degree so that you can see it clear. A wave 2 that never went into the internal fair value gap left behind, which it doesn't have to. A wave 3, we would look for the successive wave 4 that would be around the same time in length, but it would alternate in structure. So maybe you have a scary zigzag in 4, whereas our wave 2 was this little lingering piece of crap. Then you get a wave 5 to the downside to 2.236, taking this down to around 71.478. Now I want to zoom out and use our extensions that we talked about from the upside to go for our wave 5 target and show you how that would get extended. 3, 4, and going for 5. Yes, we're just going to approximate this on a larger degree. And I hope everybody's enjoying the live stream. If you are, smash up that like button, let everybody know you're here, and let's get this fucking thing going, man. All right, so let's add some extensions from that 0 point to the 3 to the 4. At that point in time, we're looking for what? The minimum 0.618 again. Do you see how we're past that, gang? And then what do we have? The 786 that we talked about on the higher time frame retracement. The extension, excuse me, to the downside. That gives you a wave 5 of 5 target to around 70,872. After which, unfortunately, your largest degree to the downside in the bear count would only then be getting a wave 3, going for a wave 4, and then a successive wave 5 in the largest degree to the downside that we're looking at for the new bear motion to the downside. Yes? Now, if this is true, great. We'll handle it as it comes at us, and we'll be able to validate it with this motion to the downside. I just want you to understand that they're not making it easy, right? So this is the bearish scenario. Now let's delete everything and talk vaguely. I'm going to show you something on Ethereum, and then we're going to come back to Bitcoin because I think it will help maybe our eyes and our patterns as to how we might want to trade this. Yes? Let's get rid of this big fucking risk management bar. Let's get rid of this. Let's leave this on because you'll see later that's important. All right, when we're looking at Ethereum on the same time frame, we can see the possibility of a what to the upside? A diagonal, right? It's not fucking beautiful, but you can do it, right? You got overthrow in the wave 5 of 5, which is not unusual per the book. And if we make a trend line from 2 to 4, we catch rejection and confirm the downtrend. I think they're making it difficult on you on purpose. I think this could be a potential reversal point for a big motion to the upside, right? If this is a wave A, and that's all I'm going to call it for now, because I do not believe it's anything but at this point, right? You're not going to convince me of new all-time highs yet, but you can get me to be semi-bullish. Yes? So if this is a B wave to the downside in a very complicated correction, and then we're looking for that successive C wave to the upside, we're looking for a leg, a connector, and a partner leg, my dudes. Do you see how this math, right? Your first, admire this, your first leg to the upside, 32%. Yes? If we're looking for a partner leg of 32%, gang, whammy, to the one line extension. That's how you can see how the trend-based fib extension tool works. This is its guts. This is how it happens. That gives you a target around 36.82. If this gets more bullish, you could move into the successive areas of resistance as 1 through 1.382. Now, if you somehow were the lucky squirrel who caught the lows, and this thing absolutely proves itself, and we go bullish, great. We'll talk about that when we get there, right? I don't want to call this a 1 into a 2, looking for a 3 into a 4, and a successive 5 just yet. We'll get there, I promise. But for right now, let's stay focused on the roadmap ahead. If we also were to place a base channel from the 0 point to the lows to the highs, if this can get back over the center line extension, let me clean this up so you can see a little bit more of what we got going on here. If it can get back above this center line of resistance of the base channel and attack the 618 gateway drug at 3,300, which is a psychological number also, we could talk about those higher targets. The thing that I like about what we have going on here on the 4 hour is that when we look at the liquidity left behind from wick to the wick, you can see we rejected off the 50% zone. You are getting acceptance in that zone, which increases the likelihood to move above it and take the next areas of liquidity. And this would be great for a holiday, right? This just lingering and chopping and lingering and chopping and eating up money. Lingering and chopping and eating up money, right? Getting people to go home on the holidays, talk to their families about how they're making money in crypto finally, right? The Santa rally, the markets are great, gets everybody pumped, they're ready to come back in the new year. Maybe. I think that comes from us bullshitting a diagonal on Ethereum and Bitcoin, though. And because of that, let's take a quick peek. So if this was a diagonal on Ethereum, could it have been a diagonal on Bitcoin? I think maybe with the bullshit we've seen, especially with such an extreme 3 swing in a 2. Could this be a 3 swing up in a 3? Right? Just follow along. In a 3 swing down in a 4. In a 3 swing up in a 5. Right? A leading diagonal can be 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 or 5, 3, 5, 3, 5. So if it can handle either one of these, why can this not also be the same concept here on Bitcoin to throw traders off? Right? Difference. We came to a 702 retracement. At that point in time, what do you see on the RSI, and why did we know we needed to start getting bullish? You have price action closures lower, RSI closures higher. Yes, let's check volume. We have what into this volume? Highest amount of sellers as it ends. Yes? Sometimes this means a reversal point, right? It means the end of a correction, the end of a motion. Now, I'm not going to hold my breath for it, but it's a maybe. Now, as soon as you lose, again, invalidation is always critical. Ethereum and Bitcoin have the same invalidation and bearish probability shift points. There's your invalidation, and your bearish probability shift point will occur when because it's a diagonal, we give it a little bit wider of some grace here, but we allow a bearish probability shift point to tickle the 786, no problem. As soon as you hit 82,000, gang, you got to roll into the other scenario, which was what? It was your what? It was your WXY, yes, where this was W, X, and all of this was Y. And then we talked about a leading into a 2 and a dump. So these are our two scenarios that we're going to be watching for on Bitcoin. One is you break these highs, it's fucking go dog go time. Yes? So maybe that will help the eyes also to be able to see this range, right? This is like bull mode, bulls on parade. Yes? This is a good thing if you get this. And if you break that, you should be assuming middle and center. Yeah, that's what I want. You should be assuming as soon as you break that 94.7 level, this thing's going to go ape shit. Now, I'm not going to sit here on an hourly and kind of argue about what I think's going on. I really want to be open to the fact that this motion right here on an hourly could have been an impulse, right? Or a strong A wave to begin a 3 swing to the upside. After that, we'll go look at it, but this looks like a 3-wave motion to me. If we can hold the lows of that 3-wave motion, we could start to talk about impulses to the upside. But as always, the lower time frames, the micros, tend to invalidate themselves quickly. So often, especially over these kind of moving into holiday time frames, maybe it's best you zoom out and stay out on the 4-hour. But for the fun of shit, let's go to the hourly really quickly. So this is what we were looking at over the weekend and why we stayed bullishly biased. I thought this was a 3-wave A and a 3-wave B, right? And I was saying, hey guys, we're looking for a C wave to the upside, right? So if we delete everything, let me get rid of these fucking alarms while we're doing this. See if it'll let me today. Sometimes they don't like to go away. Yeah, they're not going to go away today. Oh, well. When we were looking at this, we were looking for that C wave to the upside in a potential 3-swing A, 3-swing B, right? And looking for that C. Well, we got kind of the look of how a C should start, right? Because we can see, we can see in the C. That's a good Elliott Wave joke. We can see that you have a potential 5-wave motion here to the upside, right? This is a micro or lower time frame count, so maybe we'll make her hair smaller. But overall, when's this dude getting his partner, right, to the dance? So far, we haven't seen that. So I want to keep in mind that I could see a bullish reversal if this is a correction, right? Because everything from there onward is a three-wave motion. Three-wave motion. Yes, it's not good. So I don't really dig it. I really think we need to bounce sooner than later so that we can bring any sort of relevance to this 5-wave count. If not, we're going to have to swap it into a 3-wave. Let me take a sip of coffee here, man. All right. So sorry for discussing Bitcoin for so long. I just think it's important because it's the most important coin of them all, right? Like we talked about earlier. Its dominance, its price action is going to affect the whole entire market. All right. Let's go look at Ethereum. So I made some risky buys, but I bought Ethereum here for the situation we were looking at for after a diagonal. And then we can see that we have the same successive 5-wave motion to the upside. Until this invalidates itself, I'm going to continue to hang on to that spot. Now, if I have to ask myself, where does probability shift? I've got to use fibs so that I can keep myself kind of objective in the game. If Ethereum starts to lose this internal fair value gap that we clearly don't respect, right? We broke through it, and then we stayed above it. If this is what they're going to do and leave money behind, so be it. But if they are to come back into this internal fair value gap left behind and come for the liquidity, sure, we just don't want to see the 786 lost at 28.23. If that starts to happen, boom, we got to get nervous, right? But the main thing that we need to stay focused on is what we talked earlier in the stream on Ethereum, is a potential 4-hour reversal. Excuse me, I got the burps today. I'm trying to hold them in. So let's keep this in mind just in case the bulls do take the handles here, right? This is what leads me towards wanting to be bullish on Bitcoin, but some of our scenarios keep me a bear. So watch all that. All right, that's Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let me go over to the chat, see what we have here, and then we'll move forward. All right, Stank wants to look at VELO. Yeah, let's look at VELO again. I don't own any more after that little weird huckle chuck we were doing, and I was open to lower. So maybe we'll get the lower Stank that I think that you even were talking about in our last stream. What's up, Sten? Are you still here, my dude? Sten the man. He is the man, dude. Look at that Halo PFP. Is that Halo? That was a sick game back in the day, dude. I used to love coming up on people with the Halo sword and just nuking them. All right, what do we got? Happy says, what did I miss? What is the HBAR FOMO? If anybody wants to look at HBAR, we'll take a peek at it during this stream. If that is that your way of asking, sir? Apex said, what's up? What is up, Apex? I hope you're doing well, sir. Can we look at Bitcoin Cash on the daily and weekly, please? Yeah, let's do it. Bitcoin Cash. And this is for Apex, and you want the daily and weekly TF. All right, got it. I just don't want to miss anything, so I always come back and try to reread all this stuff. What's up, Nameless? How are you, my guy? You're always at every stream, dude. Hope you're doing well. All right, we got Happy's in his house, as always. Oh, you heard the milk steamer, Addie. That's hilarious. The coffee machine is in full effect. My wife is an amazing wife. Without her, I wouldn't be able to do anything, so I'm thankful. The coffee keeps the party going, dude. Just a quick bump. All right, so after that, we got Apex wants us to look at FARTBOY. I would love to look. So far, we have not noted any bullish recoveries in the Discord on FARTBOY. We lost the 786. We touched the 888. We really started to, once we get to that 90% level of retracement, it makes it hard to want to be a bull. You know what I mean? But yeah, we'll go look at FARTBOY for you, my dude. Thank you for asking. Are you still a holder of FARTBOY, by the way? And do we have any other FARTBOY holders in the house? All right. Happy. Of course, that's my way of asking. God. Happy wants to look at HBAR. You got it, buddy. We'll look at it. Hope you're having a good day. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is start hammering out the rest of our request. The first one is going to be JASMY. So let's go over to that now. I hear my kitty. She's going nuts. Oh, wow. Nice move off the lows. So let's just classically try to analyze this here. That's amazing when we have this lower closures on price action. And by closures, guys, always remember when we're talking in divergences on the RSI, we're talking in actual closures, right? So you can clearly see this tweezer top candle wicks. This flat of the blue is the closure. The gray candle will not close for another 17 minutes. If it closes like this is a bearish. That is a tweezer top candle, yes? You have nearly equal wicks. Bodies here at the top flats, closes down. Not a bullish look. Yes, that would be a 3 swing to grab the liquidity and move to the lows. Yes, that would be my major concern there. And that would make this an A, and a B, and a C. Ja feel? Oh, Ja definitely feels, bro. So that's my major concern on JASMY. And I bring this up because we have to understand some of these things might be in kind of a long-ass downtrend, right? Like when we look at this thing on a weekly, okay, you could get me to kind of start to flip a little bullish here. So let's talk about the weekly, right? And then we'll get back into the micros. Yes? Also, fucking good chart, Stank, by the way. Great chart. On a weekly, look at our price action closure here and the level it's at, and look at these price action closures and these price action closures. Right? When I look at that, I look at my RSI and go, hidden bull divergence, stepping into the 30 level on a weekly, oversold conditions. As a spot buyer, do I think you would be making a horrible decision? No. I can't give financial advice, but I think often when we're in these scenarios, I'll find myself making a small dollar cost average. And the reason why is because often you, on the lower time frames, i.e. what we just looked at, will look like shit, right? It will look like a horrible reversal so that it will shake out all of us. The algorithmic traders, the fib traders, whatever it shall be, you will get shaken out of the market. That's the point of making it look like shit, right? So from an Elliott Wave perspective, what I like about this is this motion to the upside. Passes a 1.618, makes a little bull flag, breaks out, back tests the bull flag, breaks out again. Likely, that's because this is 3-4, 3-4 stacking into a final fifth. Yes? Corrective motions don't typically go to a 2.618 extension. Now, I also want to put on the liquidity that we saw left behind. So if we pull from candle to candle, shebang, shebang, you can see you step into that area of liquidity, reject from around the 50% level, and you do so on bullish order flow, meaning green candles on your chart, yes? Likely this high will get revisited, I would like to bet, right? From a perspective of probability and Elliott Wave also. So if we have to label this on JASMY, I would say this is a micro, 1 into 2. Maybe it even ends over here. Excuse my allergies today. A 1 into 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3. A 4 that would end wonky donkey again, and a 5 to finish it. I would have to say that's my macro bias. Now I would like to see, does a volume profile fit this? And we'll also check the MACD with this, right? Because the MACD, the RSI, the volume will all tell us kind of Elliott wave wise what we're looking at. So can you see here your largest MACD push, talking the blue line, is on your wave 3 of 3, right? The other things that you want to note are divergences. Between your wave 3 and your wave 5 of 3, you have a local divergence on volume, RSI, and my old ass eyes can't see, but I'm going to say MACD histogram also. Then we continue that divergence from the macro 3 to the macro 5. Macro 3 to the macro 5. You can see lower highs on RSI, lower highs on volume. They even tried to finish her with a good pinch of volume, yes? Lower highs on the MACD lines themselves. Now, let's check another tool. This is made by Lazy Bear. It's just something I found on the internet. It's the Elliott Wave Oscillator. Often when counting Elliott waves, we look for our largest oscillation to occur within wave 3. As you can see, largest oscillation on the oscillators at the tops of the 3, and then we get a divergence as we go for the next push into the potential 5. So if all this validates itself, I do think that you are getting into an area of interest where, as we talked, a spot holder on JASMY could take advantage of such things. So let's look at that really quickly. And I hope everybody's enjoying the stream today. I really enjoy doing these. They're a lot of fun. So far, we've had a lot of people come by today, and I'm super, super stoked that you're all coming and hanging out so long. It means a lot. Let's put these corrective extensions on for right now. And we are at the 618, which would be an irregular place for this to stop. I will put on the 786 just in case. That gives you the next area of interest, which I'm guessing is at least 10% down. Yeah, that's a good cut. That gives you a 30% fall, right? So you've got to give yourself, like, keep that in mind, man. If I start to fall, I could be going down another 30%. And technically, hard invalidation for this scenario isn't for a bit. So me as a trader, I look at this and be like, well, that is an atypical target. We could go to the lower time frames and see if we can get into this. You know what I mean? But, excuse me, I'm trying not to burp so loud. My tummy is tore up today. I ate Chipotle yesterday. I don't know if you guys have ever had Chipotle. It was a fucking mistake. It's a horrible mistake. Anyhow, the 4 hour itself has not given us a reversal. When we go from low to low to the high, which I believe this is the highest high, if we have to be critically true. But from an Elliott wave perspective, I may want to attach my extensions a little differently. We'd have to go look. Regardless, it looks 100% like an ABC that is trying to end on high volume and reject at the standard 1 through 1.382 extensions, right? So JASMY still gives me that, like, uh-oh, it could make a move for another low, right? A three-wave motion is never a strong start of something. Granted, can a three-wave motion be the beginning of something? Yes, it can be 3 waves in 1, 3 waves in 2, 3 waves in 3, 3 waves in 4, and 3 waves in 5. It could be an ABC within a W, and then you could get an ABC within an X, and then you could get an ABC within a Y. Do you see, like, none of these are a standard impulse. So until I get this, and a pullback to buy into the area of interest left behind and liquidity, we are kind of tossing darts. So remember, the bull and the bear always exist. They always dance together. So that's my views on JASMY. Let's go look at minor. I think that we have looked at this one together. Oh, there she is. It's the Justin Bieber coin. Never surrender. This motherfucker looks toting a death hammer, bro. Nothing's changed for it since our last technical analysis, my friend. Stank. Put your retrace from a low to a high. Hope for a diagonal. If you don't get said bounce that you were looking for way over here that we haven't made yet, of the 786, right? It's just not over yet. The blood is not there. Now, once you lose this low, you need to cash in your diagonal hopes, right? You are up fuck street with no paddle at this point, and you're going for new lows. And that will look like this minimum. Cinnamon. So be careful. This corrective motion looks like shit, though it can be a double zigzag to the downside. And this is where we start to talk about bullshit 101. If ifs and nuts, what candies and butts, or whatever the fuck the saying is, you might get a reversal in a double zigzag, a sharp double zigzag. And you remember we were like, nothing strong starts in 3 waves, but it can chain things together. What if this is 3 waves to the downside, 3 waves to the upside, 3 waves to the downside, right? This is kind of what you were looking at on Ethereum even. Ethereum had kind of that WXY, double zigzag, triple zigzag look. So, Stank, you're in the area of interest, but you got to ask yourself, what's my risk to reward ratio, and how do I make investments in this zone wisely? This is what I would do. I'm not a financial advisor. It's just what I would do. And I'm just a fucking dude on the internet chilling in a bright yellow bathrobe, drinking too much coffee. But I think that once you tickle the tip of these highs at 90% retracement, you're likely to give a push past those highs. Now, you need to measure up risk to reward, right? So if we get in at the 786, it's my first time I ever bought this amazing Justin Bieber fucking never give up coin, and I know where my invalidation is. I'm going to set up my tool and ask myself, can I handle losing that on my investment? So for every $100 I put into the investment, I'm going to lose $28. But if this survives, I'm going to make 427%. So you've got to also assess that risk and ask yourself right now, what is a palatable loss for me? Yes? And that's how I would proceed with minor until we get like a true reversal, right? Because right now, I'll go low time frame. Right now, this isn't looking like an impulsive reversal, right? This looks like some sort of three-wave bullshit, and waiting for maybe another corrective motion if you're lucky. But my largest concern comes from, is it starting to displace to the downside and make that push for what would be our larger target of the 786 at 0.7531. If never give up or minor coin can fall down to 0.7531 at the 786 and not lose invalidation at 0.5366, it has a strong opportunity at a 4x on the table. Bear in mind, this is a diagonal. These are rare. It doesn't mean it will work out. Same thing as always, guys. We assessed what happened from our wave 2 to our 4. And when the trend line was lost, you knew the trend was over and upside was over. Yes, your acceleration line. All right, let's move on to Solana. Jamie, are you still in the house? You have your Solana request. Let's check it out and see what you got on that. If everybody's liking the stream so far, go ahead and hit the like button and I hope that everybody's having a great day and you're getting all your chart requests fulfilled. After this, I'm going to be heading off for vacation to Los Angeles for 2 weeks. I wanted to stick around and not leave until after this stream so that I could talk with you guys one more time before I went. But I'm really excited. So if any of you are down in the LA area, hit me up. Let's get together. I would love to have a coffee with you or say hello, as long as you're not a weirdo. So yeah, let's chat about it. All right, so let's move on to Solana for Jamie. I'm guessing she's on shift or something because she ain't talking back. All right, so far Bitcoin is not supporting your bullish ideas just yet. All right, I like this chart the most when I'm talking about Solana, right? Oopsie, I think I just deleted a ton of shit. Yeah, I had a ton of counts on here. All right, so I want you to understand the macro before we get into the micro. The macro for Solana is not so hot. Yes, so if we pull a fib from 0 to 5, or what we suspect as that, the first leg of this correction down only came to a 0.236 and then rolls up in a three-wave motion and is now looking to add this potential leg to the downside, right? So you have a leg, a connector, and making a partner leg is my best guess. I think the macro, unfortunately for Solana, doesn't look super hot. So I'm more short biased on this than long biased, right? It doesn't mean it has to take this low. It's just its most probable thing to do, right? So Solana losing $100 for me is an amazing opportunity, right? You have a ton of liquidity left behind from this impulsive motion up, where we can even see these amazing strokes, right? We can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And we'll make this yellow just so that our eyes can kind of see these counts. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 waves in wave 3 with 5 waves within wave 3 of 3 with its highest volume coming in the wave 3 of the wave 3. Now let's look at Solana on the same way that we did on our other macro coin. Yes? What do you see? Same profile and behaviors of Elliott Wave playing out on the RSI and MACD. Again, wave 3, MACD line tops. Wave 3 of 3, largest oscillation, largest volume. Then what happens? Divergence. Yes? Divergence in volume. Pulls back in a 3-wave motion. Resets the RSI deeply. I hope you're seeing this. Resets your MACD histogram deeply. Allows for that next move to the upside, in which you see RSI divergence with higher closures on price action on lower fucking volume. Unfortunately, these signatures tell me that this is potentially the bullish count to the upside that's over for this cycle. Yes? And if that's true, right, we're looking for what? Minimum time in correction. So 0 to 5. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. This low was in before a 382. Who the fuck bought this? Hopers. And then what did they do? They didn't sell into this. Now they're going to bleed into this, and this is where they will sell to the sharks, right? All the fucking minnows are going to get ate up. This will likely make a 3-wave motion into 1 through 1.382, and then a successive bounce, which gets everybody bullish again. Doesn't make new highs. Maybe it does. We'll have to wait and see. And then a sharp 5-wave motion that in time will likely find the area of liquidity left behind. And I think that getting sub $50 Solana at some point will be on the table, right? So unfortunately, I'm short biased, and that comes from the weekly. Now, if we were to go into the daily, we can see that same 618 extension is resistance. Great price action reactions around that zone, right? So our next area of support for Solana is 104. And with grandma shitting her knickers, you might get it. That's a hell of a 4-hour rejection, my dudes. Right? So if this is all corrective motion like we talked, your roadmap will get quite bloody. Your hands are going to get slippery. You might drop the knife, but just stay short until proven otherwise, right? If it continues to fall down, this is not a good look. This is a full-bodied, 4-hour bearish engulfing candle. Yes? Not good. All right, let's go back to Solana. Sorry, I can get sidetracked very easily. All right, so on the hourly, if you're wanting to be bullish on Solana, how could we do it? How could we defy the local bearish scenario a little bit longer? This looks like a 3-4 too. Sorry for the silence. It's not I want to say this is another 1-2 here is what we're looking at. Maybe even a sneaky Pete right there. Like that. And that's why you end up with so many 3-4s into the highs. But I think that's your macro 4. The only thing I don't like about it, which is preferential, right? I have to say that. Let's also check the histogram on this. Is that we didn't really get a hidden bull divergence on the RSI between 2 to 4, meaning this low and this low and this low and this low. You did get it here on your histogram. I would like to check the cipher on this really quickly. Let's consult with the oracle. Where is it at? Woo-wee! Did it work? I think it did, Billy. So you did get your signal for your wave 4 entry here on your RSI of your market cipher B. Or that's not your RSI, excuse me, your RSI is the red one. On your momentum, so maybe that's what we can go with. Now let's look into here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to end it. Mathematically, let's see, does this make sense? What does it do? I bet it hits it. Bet it gets it. Right on the fucking money! Alright, so if I want to be, I'm just making dots everywhere, I think. If I want to be a bull, what I would have to do, Jamie, I want you to understand this is going to be a very fucking high risk long. And we'll come down like this. This is like world long shot, and the reason why is because it's highly unlikely all of this corrective action is part of anything other than a B if you are lucky, meaning this is super long shot, long, like high risk, zero retrace. Let's get rid of this for now. So we just think this, let's go to 30. Give me a minute. I like that that was a 3 swing up that ends on high volume. Another one that ends on high volume. So what if, there we go. Solana makes 1-2 stacking to the downside, sweeps this low here, and comes down to around 120, and then gives a really good bounce. That would be like a really hopeful long to try to defy the bears. But at that point, right, it's just a corrective motion because your correction is around 3 times in links already. So, right, if this comes down and somehow bounces here somewhere and gives you that C, that could be something to look for as a potential long on leverage. But I have to give this potential 5-wave motion some street cred. Yes, it has the look. It has the divergence on RSI. It has the divergence on momentum. You can see it on your RSI, and your momentum and your volume actually. So classic 5 waves off the low. The problem here is I can't chain it into belonging as the end of something. So for me, I have to stay biased to a long on Solana as long as that invalidation's holding at 116, right? And I would look for some sort of 5-wave motion that falls into this low and scares the shit out of everybody and then moves upwards. I'm really interested. Do you have a fixed range volume profile of the local 5 up that gives us some POC support here? So we're under that already, which is not the best look. Let's move it back a smidgen. Puts it way down there. So you might experience a quick free fall short from here just for a moment. You could also try that with invalidation, right? But you're going to have to count from the top down as 1-2 stacking on Solana, which is more likely than any diagonal, right? Meaning that this is wave 1 into a wave 2 and wave 1 into a wave 2, right? And now you're looking for strong displacements. So you're looking for a wave 4 and dump, and wave 4 and dump. Yes? All right. Let's go to VELO for stank. Let me know what you think, Jamie, and if that was helpful. All right, let's go to VELO USDT on KuCoin. It's been the chart we've been using all along. So far on the weekly, plans are going kind of as they should. As we've talked about before, we see paths as to how this correction could take more time. Yes, this is our macro scenario that we were all sizing up. Go here. And after which a diagonal, most common area of retracement is the 786, right? So if this is only 3 waves down, and we're looking for 3 waves up in an X or a B, I would say weekly and daily, we're biased, right? We're biased for a little bit of a bully push, right? Of this internal leg, right? Of that 3-wave swing down. Now, it does occur after the 382, so can it be the low? Yes. Is it likely the low? I don't think so, right? I think there's not enough games at hand here yet. So that's my largest concern, would be that motion to the downside is only an ABC, right? Meaning that this is a 1-to-1 equivalent 535 to a 1 line. Do you see? So that's an ABC, 5 waves, and C might be over. If so, you have one of 2 scenarios that you're asking yourself, right? I think the more common thing to have happen would be a B wave to the upside. Yes, so if this is 3 waves down in A, you would look for a 90% retracement in a B, right? If this is A in 3 waves, you're looking for a B of a 90% retracement before a C wave to the downside. If this is 3 waves in W, we're looking for an X wave that typically doesn't hit the 702 and take the highs of this B, right? It will typically stay somewhere in this golden area. 0.5 is what it really would like. but around at least the 382, right? So you're bullishly biased for both paths to at least 0.10337, right? So for right now, I have to side with this still here on VELO, right? On the weekly, locally bullishly biased. Now, when we zoom in is where I got thrown out of the position, which is totally fine. I'm completely open with admitting that to you. I don't mind you guys knowing. No one's perfect. This was that potential 5-wave motion called out by Andy in our Discord as a potential trade idea for 5 up. And then we were like, oh man, why did we get excited? Because after 5 up, we can see a really clean 3-wave motion to the downside. Excuse me. Got a text here. After we see the 3-wave to the downside, we can see a really strong, after we see the motion to the downside in 3, we can see a bounce in 3 to the 90% retracement that we keep talking, yes? So if this is 3 down in A and 3 up in a B wave, and you're looking for C, it could get bloody, yes? Now, can it be over? If we go from 0 to 5, you can see that the low of the 3-wave motion is in after a 382 in time. I'll turn off the volume so you can see it more clear. Now, the issue is that after which we were like, okay, maybe this was a 5-wave to the upside. But look what happened. Boom, takes the lows. So we had to kank that idea, right? I sold as this was coming down because it was losing the 786. It wasn't working out anymore. So I had to move on, which is fine. You're not going to win them all. This isn't Pokemon. You're not Ash Ketchum. You're not going to fucking catch them all. It just is what it is. Now, I want you to see that when we pull a retrace from 0, meaning the top of 5, to the lows of A, we get that 90% retracement, 888 figure on like the money, baby. We also can add to it a potential 3-swing extension. Oops, fuck off. I do that often. Wrong click, huh? Get it this time. 1, 2, and 3. 3 to make it true, bro. And you can see we correct where? 1 through 1.382, yes? Because of that, we got to side with it could reject here. It could come down for another local low. The bonus thing here that I want you to see, where I want you to get stoked, is that that would be a good opportunity, yes? In a B wave. Likely, let me get rid of this so we can see it more clear. Likely this would just be an A wave up, a B wave down when it's over, and a C wave to the upside before further downside, right? Which is okay, but I would say you're sitting at a really high here with some bearish 4-hour candles. I'm guessing, yeah, RSI's cranked up. It's not a good look, right? Same thing here. Momentum's really cranked up with a sell dot on the 4-hour. So, in my opinion, could it push through and invalidate? Yes, because B waves are crazy and B waves can expand. But if at any point in time it is to hit 0.9071, you should fully accept that the low is in for VELO and that this could get much more bullish to the upside. Okay? All right, I hope that is helpful, Stank. Let me know in the chats if you like it. Apex wants us to look at Bitcoin Cash, so let's go do that now. Man, we had 70 people come through here today, man. 70 people. That's so cool. I hope everybody's having the best holidays. All right, Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash. So, you're going to see that on a weekly, you can get me to be bullish. After the weekly, shit starts to fall apart. And I'll show you, I want to show you this really quickly. So if this is a wave 1 into a wave 2 and a wave 3 somehow, and a 4 and a 5, yes? Now in Elliott Wave, you have to check this kind of for validity, yes? Meaning, do we break any rules? So rule breaks. If you have overlap of the price action of wave 4 into wave 1, it's a hard rule break. If wave 3 is the shortest leg in the sequence, that's a rule break. You can clearly see wave 3 is longer. Goes way past 1.382. Goes to a 2.236, increasing the likelihood that's a wave 3, an extended wave 3, my dudes. All right, so if it's gonna be, right, and this is how you should approach everything in Elliott Wave. Move your extension from 0 to 3 to 4. So you have 3 points of connection. 0, 3, and 4. Projecting for a wave 5 to the corrective trend-based fib extensions. And see, are you getting that extended fifth? And in my opinion, yes, I think that is what happened. Usually they'll give a good push of volume on that extended fifth, like here, right? You can see good volume came in, but overall what happened, guys? You have bear divergence on the RSI at the same time as getting a decrease in volume, right? Meaning that we have a momentum divergence between wave 3 and a wave 5, increasing the likelihood of the validity of this 5-wave motion on a weekly. Now, this is where it goes to shit. So if you are to say you want to be a bull on Bitcoin Cash and you're like, wow, my weekly is charged up. It's got an Elliott wave count. It has to work out. I can't tell you how many times I've had a 5-wave motion that I thought was valid as shit, and then it just invalidates the shit out of itself, yes? So the lows are going to be invalidation of this, and we're going to have a bearish probability shift point with our retracement from low to high, and we're looking to not lose the 786, right? That is where the bearish probability shift point will kick in. So as kind of like a long-term holder, you should be considering you're attacking the highs, things are looking your way, you're standing right underneath of a really nice internal fair value gap on the weekly that was left behind for you to go tickle the tip of. So could it happen? Yes. But the problem is this leg is very hard to make into a 5-wave motion, right? And that's where I get stuck, unfortunately. So we'll go into much lower time frames, and I'll talk about why I own some Bitcoin Cash and where I have my personal invalidation. But do bear in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. Just a dude in a bathrobe, drinking too much coffee. Now, if we are to start to look at this as like a what if, right? What if this was A, what if this is B, and what if this is C? Great, let's check. We come to the 1-to-1 extension and the 0.5 retracement as a pretty confluent area. So that's kind of nice. Now let's put a channel on this as a deceleration channel. I think they're really important in Elliott Wave. Go from 0 to the highs to the lows. You can see that we're trying to find our way out of it, out of a weekly deceleration channel. Guys, this is big news. And again, here's another reason why I own some Bitcoin Cash. Weekly deceleration channel, back test. Let me get it as pinned on as we can. I'll make this a different color so it's a little more appealing for the eye. You found the back test and now you could break out. Yes, but I also have to consistently keep my eyes on the what if this is the first leg of a correction and a connector and I'm waiting for a partner leg to the downside, right? That would be kind of the bearish scenario, right? And in that scenario, I'm really open to seeing this prior degree wave 4 interacted with, because this is the most common thing to see happen in Elliott Wave. I'm amazed when we only have a 3-wave motion that doesn't investigate prior degree wave 4, right? So this might be just a connector, and you might get a strong displacing motion to the downside in 5 waves that explores prior degree wave 4, but that just under $200 level on Bitcoin Cash could really be an opportunity. And the reason I believe that is because when we measure this, its first leg was 724%, my guys. There's a good opportunity that could happen again. The other thing we need to assess is time of correction compared to impulse. When we see a 3-swing corrective motion that resets the RSI deeply, such as this one, in a 1-to-1 motion that comes to the 0.5, it can very well be a wave 2, right? So if you want to be a bull, that's your wave 1, that's your wave 2, and this is New Jock City, pump to the moon, we're out of here. Yeah? Now, if that's true, you can form invalidation for your holdings here, right? Or, like we're going to do, we'll go into lower time frames, and we'll start to talk about what bullishly could be happening. Yes? Again, Bitcoin's not looking super strong at the moment, so do be aware if Bitcoin falls, Bitcoin Cash is going to shit its thighs. Like we talked about, Bitcoin dominance is a huge thing. All right, I only want to talk about price action from a 5-wave motion moving forward. Okay? So for me, make sure I'm not talking up my ass, I'm going to start talking from here moving forward for my Bitcoin Cash holdings as invalidation, right? Because I want to keep some money on that you made. Yes? You are hoping this is some sort of 5-wave motion to the upside and a pullback, and some sort of 5-wave motion to the upside and a pullback. The issue is becoming that this pullback, as you can see, is significantly larger than this little dude right here, making it harder to get behind that this is 1-2 stacking to the upside and that it's getting bullish, making it more probable that what we might be dealing with is some sort of contracting motion towards the upside. So I'm going to delete everything just so our eyes can see what we're doing. When we assess from the subwave count of this is 5 waves all day. Subwave count of this, 5 waves all day. Subwave count of this, 5 waves, in my opinion. Wave 3, or this potential secondary leg that was given, I don't even know if it hits 786. Misses it, yep. That kind of makes this more of a 3-wave motion and a 3-wave motion, right? And now you're waiting for another 3-wave motion. None of this is looking super bullish because of that. And the reason we don't want to call a diagonal, I'll show you really quickly, is if we measure from the highs to the lows and put it across the highs, we can see we're far past the 1-to-1 of time and correction, making the 4 longer than the 2. That was my daughter. She wants to be part of the stream. And if we measure the 2 as a 3-swing motion with the trend-based fib extensions and overlay that leg onto this motion, we can see that the successive motion to the downside is significantly larger than this one, making it a expanding diagonal, which is not common. So start asking yourself, what if? And I can tell you that what I'm looking at for my holdings from the upside to the downside is the potential for this to be 5 waves. And then we get a divergence, right? Could this just be chopping a corrective motion towards the upside over this next, weekend even? And we would look for some sort of A into a B and maybe a potential C wave to the upside that starts to get more into this zone. We'll have to wait and see. But it doesn't look great, right? Like nothing about it can we start to build this like that's an impulse, right? We're lacking the look. So as long as it continues to lack the look and everything's choppy and overlapping, this whole thing could just still be correcting, right? Like we talked about on the larger time frames. And this could be 3 waves down and 3 waves up, and then you get a stronger correction to the downside. So I really don't want to start seeing this market structure of higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. You start to lose higher low at 520, Bitcoin Cash is in danger, and you could even roll this into the what if scenario on the weekly where you come back to fill this gap. I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just saying be aware of these things. All right, FARTBOY. This is something that we've covered a million times. When price action is in a downtrend, like this one, and you come to a 90% level of retracement, typically that means you are going to lose said retracement and move down to the next area of interest for FARTBOY, which will be 0.07517 to 0.06911. This is not the best look. Yes, for me, I don't buy at 90% retracement. I just wait. I would rather wait for this area and see, do we get a micro bounce from there that gives us some sort of probability shift point. For now, I'm bearish. If the 1.618 for FARTBOY at 0.006034 is lost, full blood mode engages. Yes. Besides that, I have nothing else to talk about on FARTBOY. Let's move into HBAR really quickly. This won't take long. This will be, I'm not going to talk about the macro because it doesn't matter. It looks like shit. For now, HBAR lines up a lot of its macro with potentially being bearish. Now, what I will say is that this looks like a picture perfect correction to me of 3 down and 3 up. Looking for 5 down being the most common thing to take the lows of the first leg of the correction or the initial leg and give a partner leg into this zone around 0.10816. So if you're a bull on HBAR, you want local reversals, meaning that this is somehow, some way, there's fucking 5 waves in here hiding, I'm sure of it. Then this is A, B, and looking for C. Now, if you can hold this on an hourly, you can maybe get behind the idea that HBAR will experience a bullish reversal. Hard invalidation for this scenario is going to be on the lows. And that's all we have for HBAR, right? So if you're looking for coins to buy, or you're looking for areas of interest to mitigate risk and make a possible investment, you have to ask yourself, if I wanted to buy this, that's my entry, that's my stop loss, what am I going to gain? Can I make at least a 3-to-1 risk to reward off of this? You can only project to the one line, so you get a 2.31 risk to reward ratio. Now you can tighten up your stop loss and roll this up a lot higher if you would like and increase that, right? You can, I think that you need to be at least batting for that 3 ratio. Yeah, so it's okay if you have to biff this a little bit. We know we don't want to see the 90% touched because that was a 5-wave motion to the upside. We're only looking for that 90% touch after a flat, which is what we're looking at here, gang. 3 waves down in A means at least a 90% retracement, or 888, was expected, with the most common area of interest being the 1.236 through 1.382. Now you're going to see a strong 5 waves down to test your ass out. Do you get the bounce for this motion? And do we validate more than just an ABC? Right? This would be your ABC. 1 through 1.382 is the goal. Yes? Again, timing correction compared to time and impulse. If you can get this low to come in before the 1.618 in time that falls on Tuesday at lunchtime, and for sure before Wednesday, you could see a strong reversal. Yes? And your initial leg is a decent gainer, 11%. If I can get over 10% on spot, it's definitely something that I like to size up. So that's HBAR happy. I will continue to cover it in the Discord, but for right now, this is our macro bias. Is that next low down to I want to add a 0, 0.10816, and from there we will try to catch a bounce, but for now we're looking for 5 waves to the downside. All right, guys, that looks like just about everything that we've covered today. Does anybody have any other coins or questions or anything? So far, everything's dancing with another low, or at least the opportunity of pushing down into these areas of interest that we talked about. Even here on Bitcoin, right? Internal fair value gap left behind. I'm not saying it has to happen. I'm just saying that this is the most common thing to happen, right? And it's even more so if this whole range is corrective, right? We're looking for Bitcoin to come down and investigate this area of 86,331 for a strong bounce to the upside. This would be my bullish bias for Santa Claus rally. Would be, do you catch the bounce in this zone for a long on Bitcoin? If you do, this is going to be a really good long, right? So this is where I'm looking for my leverage longs on Bitcoin. I'm looking for at least this to be a scalp of an A into a B and go for the C. I will put manage my risk here by looking for entries no sooner than before we need a break of 86,827. Because we typically see the partner leg take the lows of the successive move. Yes? So I'm not going to run my stop loss all the way to the lows. I'm going to run this guy here. We're going to talk about a 3-swing motion from low to high to low. It's a 3-swing strategy. It's really all we need to be a trader. And we get a 3.52 risk to reward ratio out of this to around 91.4 as my first TP level. I think that this is what is coming. This is very hard to see what they're doing here. Maybe it's an A here and a B up here, but I do think this is a C wave, so nonetheless, something like this is what we're looking for. I think you have the same expanded B wave retracement that you got tickled here. If we pull from 0 to the lows of a potential A, you can see rejection at 1.236 through 1.382. So I'm going to count this as a local C wave down that's trying to trap traders and trap shorts, when in all reality, you actually should be looking for the longs, right? So for now, that's my bias. I hope this was a great stream for you guys. And I really enjoyed chatting with you all today. Again, I'm going to be leaving for LA after this stream. If you're down in the California area, I would love to get together with you, get a coffee, hang out, say hello. I always love meeting people. I do think the chats are the most engaging, fun part of all of this trading shit, because without you, trading is very, very boring. So as always, guys, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming today. If you need anything in the meantime, come check out the Discord. I have it pinned in the upper chats for you. It's also in the description for the live stream. Come on through, say hi, pop in. We always love to meet new people. And I will go get this all time stamped up for you guys so that you know what's going on and so that you can get the data quicker. As always, see you guys on the next one.